So again, guys, this is Octavia Manuel, a family nurse practitioner out of Wisconsin, and she owns the CNA School Healthcare Partners. I'm sorry, Care. Yeah, I had it right. Partners Healthcare Training out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and she has been in business for 13 years now. Repeat that.
I said it's Partners Healthcare Training. You almost had it right.
Partners Healthcare Training in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay. So I have a few questions for you. We got a chance to chat last week, and oh my God, the amount of knowledge, the trials and tribulations that you've been through, all of the above, I feel is very, very great for the group to be able to get a chance to hear all of this. So first, if you could tell me a little bit about what all programs you offer.
So we offer CPR, American Heart Association CPR. We offer here in Wisconsin, we have CBRF, which stands for Community-Based Residential Facility. And what it is pretty much caregiver. It's a caregiver program that is, oh, wait, I got a little message. It's a caregiver program. It's pretty much overseen by the state of Wisconsin. It's a 22-hour medication administration. The other is fire safety. Then there's first aid and choking. And then there is, wait, what's the last one? Fire safety, first aid and choking. And infection control. So those are the four that are in that caregiver training.
And you started with.
Oh, sorry.
Now you started the CNA program initially, correct?
I did. I started with CNA initially, and that was all I had initially, and that was back in 2007.
All right. So you've grown since then. Tell us a little bit about you starting your nurse aid training program. What made you decide to start one?
So starting out, it actually started with a conversation from a nurse who was probably a little bit older than me when we worked together. I worked on a long-term ventilator unit at one of our hospitals that we had. The name has changed now. It used to be called St. Mary's. And so we were just sitting there. We worked third shift. And so we would have these long, in-depth conversations all of the time. And I love her. And I don't know where she is right now. Her name was Lamiko. And Lamiko had started working at our technical college in our area, Milwaukee area technical college, teaching CNA. And she said to me one night, Octavia, you would be a great teacher. And I'm like, really? Because I was so young. I had only been out of nursing school. I graduated nursing school when I was about 25. And I only been a nurse for maybe about 3 or 4 years. And so she said, I think so. And I said, why? She said, because I think people listen to you. And I said, really? And so she said, yes, they do. And so I went and I applied at Milwaukee Area Technical College. Got the job, but that's how it was. You got the job, and they said, meet these students at this nursing home at this time. After we had did like the online trainer training and all of that was online. I never had contact with anyone. They just said, meet these students here. Threw me in there, threw me to the wolves. I had no idea what I was doing, not a clue. So I met the students there and I taught them how to be a CNA the way I knew how to be a CNA. So I taught them, and I had been a CNA for 5 years when I was in nursing school. So I pretty much thought I knew what I was doing. But I had this same group of students, my very first group, come back to me. They all had my cell phone number. Like, I just fell in love with those students. And so they all text me and said, oh my God, Miss Octavia, I didn't pass. I said, you didn't pass? No. So all of them, and I felt so bad. I felt horrible. MATC had not equipped me with what I needed to teach those students to be successful. So after that, I kind of started searching. I'm like, how do you teach? How do you teach people to become a CNA? So I started looking into things. And then finally, one of the students, I believe, gave me the handbook for Pearson VUE. And Pearson VUE,
didn't even know the handbook existed.
I didn't even have a clue that the handbook was even in existence. So one of the students gave me a handbook The administrator had never given it to me. And so from that handbook, I started saying, I need to get into a classroom. Like if I could just get into a classroom, I could learn this and I could learn how to teach these students. And to get into a classroom, my running joke is at our technical college, someone had to retire or someone had to die or get sick because there was no way that you were going to get into the classroom. Of course, you could be an adjunct and teach at the clinical, but to get into the actual classroom was difficult. That led me to looking and finding out that we had smaller CNA training programs in the city. Well, right outside the city. It's a suburb of the city of Milwaukee, which is called Wauwatosa. And I applied at this job and I got it. And that's where I got my experience.
Now, I want to back up real quick and talk about something that you just said, because I had the similar problem too. And while I'm talking about this, FYI, we can't see you.
You can't?
No.
It says Victoria Randall has requested to turn your webcam on. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's
why are you doing that? These computers are not friendly with us today,
Victoria. We're not having the best of luck today with the camera. You're right. But there we go. You're on. You're on. Uh-oh, you were.
I was saying you want my camera to be off.
Okay. I'm sorry. Ignore me. Try it one more time. All right. So here's the thing. I went through the exact same problem that you did, which is what she said. You get in there, you think I'm a nurse, I've been a CNA, I'm a nurse, I know what I'm doing, I know how to train these people. And then you realize, oh my God, I do not know how to teach them how to pass the test. And that there is a certain skill behind teaching CNAs how to pass the test. Yeah, we can teach them real world, but that test is no joke. And like I've said, the test is different in every state. So, in some states, putting a patient on a bedpan looks one way, but in another state, it looks completely different. And as silly as that sounds, it's the truth. So you have to really get that handbook for your state, study it like the back of your hand so that you can teach your students that as well. I learned that real quick too.
Right. And another thing with that, you are told, like from our state consultant, the CNA consultant, you are told, don't teach your students from the book. You're supposed to teach from their handbook. You're supposed to teach your students from the textbook. But if you don't teach your students how their handbook wants to see the skill, your students are not going to be successful. So you do have to teach both. And I think that's one of the skills that you learn over time, how to juggle it, how to teach out of your textbook as well as teaching them out of their handbook. Because the students, the number one complaint you'll hear is them say, I'm confused. I'm confused. The book says this, but the handbook says that. And so that takes skill and practice on how to really kind of bring those two things together and teach them both ways. And I always like to tell them, like, well, you're going to see how it comes together when we get to the nursing home. So and it does, and it comes together usually at the end. It comes together for the student.
You're right. Something as simple as, something as silly as wash the face, then apply soap. Wet the face, then apply soap and wash. But maybe the book said wash the face. They're like, well, was I supposed to wet it first? It said wet it over here, but over here it didn't, and it really confuses them. It does. So that is a huge learning lesson that you just shared with us. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I can't get that point home hard enough. That's a big issue. Okay, so anyway, so then you get to the a different position with a private.
So I found a small private CNA training. Now, I got to think at this time, now I'm probably about 26 years old. So I'm still a younger nurse. I'm only out of school, like I said, maybe about 3 years or so. I get the job and I'm the only African-American instructor. So I'm the only African-American instructor. So the dynamic here in Wisconsin or in Milwaukee, I'm not sure about other cities. We do have programs, or we call them here W-2 programs, that help people who are, in work programs to get their, they might be getting benefits from the state or whatever to be able to be work ready. So that's why they call it W-2, welfare to work or whatever there's different names for the programs. So these programs will pay for the students, the state programs will pay for the students to take these classes so they can be work ready. Well, what I found is that, and I kind of felt like, now this could have been me with my conspiracy theory thoughts. I I got hired because I was African American. So I felt like I got hired because they wanted me to write the minority students up. And it wasn't just Black minority students. There were foreign students. There were people from everywhere. And I was sent to write them up. For example, there could have been a class that was taught today, but I wasn't even in the classroom. I'll come back the next day and they'll say, well, Octavia, you have to write or have them sign the write-up. And I'm like, why? I wasn't here. So I felt like I was the send-off person targeted at minority people. And so, and even as something as little as the uniforms, I felt like there was forms of discrimination. So the students who would get paid through these W-2 programs would all get the same uniform, the same color, the same gate belt, everything the same. I asked them because I saw a division in the classroom. I said, well, you know, some of the students were asking them, well, why do you all have the same? And they said, oh, well, these were paid for. Right there, I seen a divide and a discrimination in the classroom.
So the other students, they had to buy their own uniforms. Their uniforms were the same.
Like, people who were paying cash would come in and they would buy their own uniform, and they didn't have a particular color. You could just wear any scrub set. Well, it looked automatically different if you walked in and half of the classroom all had the same everything, and then the other half did not. So I went to my supervisor at that time and said, when they come in through this program, could they have a choice of at least a color so they all won't sit there with the same color? And they told me no. They said, no, you're thinking too much into this. I said, but you know, I told them what I observed in the classroom. They said no. And then I can recall a few other occasions when we had a holiday party and they had KFC, and the owner of this establishment asked me would I like some watermelon to go along with the chicken. And so at that point I was young, so I didn't really know how to respond to that. And I'm like, wait a minute, did she just say? And then I noticed other things, like she had become afraid to come to work because she had started bringing her dog, because some of the African American girls would threaten her because of the way they were treated. And I seen it, and I seen how they were treated. And what I started doing is I started pulling them to the side and saying, put your head up, like, you know, do your work. Make sure you do the workbook. So I saw all these things and I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. So I was like,
let me back up. Let me make sure I'm understanding this. So this particular program, there were two sets of students, ones who were paying cash, ones who were coming through the government program. The majority of individuals coming through the government program were minorities. And because of that, they had a certain, everything that they had to use, everyone didn't. So then there became a divide, not only amongst how they were treated by staff, but also how they were treated by other students, right? Because they felt like we had to pay, you got this for free. Okay, so I'm just gonna stop there and say, that is why there needs to be uniformity in uniforms, period.
Yeah.
Period. You know, because for a multitude of reasons, when you go to clinical, everyone needs to be uniform. Everyone needs to know what school you're coming from and what instructor you belong to. You know, I can't even imagine that this was going on. This is crazy to me. But that just shows why uniformity in education is important.
Yes, right. And that's how it was when I was in nursing school. When I was in nursing school, we all had to wear the same uniform. So when I opened my CNA training, I made sure that everyone wore the same color. It was the same shoe. They had to wear the same shoe color. I think I was so strict on what my uniform was when I first started, was because of that experience. I didn't want anyone to feel like they didn't belong. I didn't want anyone to feel like they were not supposed to be there. You know, and I think that's what I seen there. In the method of teaching I seen when people made simple mistakes, instead of correcting them and helping those students to get it correct, they were like put out. They were like, oh, they tried it 3 times. They put them out. They have to get written up. So I learned a lot from that program. And like I said, it was a lot of racism in that program. Even the owner, I'll never forget, there was a sign on her door that said, careful how you approach the queen. So those are things that stuck in my mind. And then I start asking questions. I start wondering, why didn't I ever see the owner teach? Then I found out that she couldn't teach because she wasn't a nurse. So then I started saying, well, wait a minute. If all of the nurses walked out of this program today, then she would have a program. So then I started saying, I can do this program on my own. So then I started seeing little magazines with the supplies, and I'll look at the magazine. I'm not going to be honest. I would take that magazine home. look over it and say, where is this place? It was a Pocket Nurse magazine. I'll never forget it. And I'm like, wow, they have everything. You can buy the mannequin. You can buy this. You can buy that. And so I started doing research. I started calling the state consultant for the state of Wisconsin. And I think with me contacting her, I had nothing. I didn't have a dollar, a dime, a nickel. I'm a single mother with two boys. And so I didn't even have a nickel, but I called this lady for at least a year, asking her questions about the curriculum, the way the textbooks are set up now versus 2007. The textbooks now give you a lot of guidelines. They give you a lot of guidance and instruction. Back then, when we ordered a textbook, all you got was a textbook. That was it, the end. So I actually had to handwrite my curriculum. And that took me a year in my basement while my boys were sleeping. I would be up all night, and then I would have to get up the next day and go to work. And so I wrote that whole curriculum, did all of this without a dime, without a money, nowhere to start a program. I had no clue what I was going to do or how I was going to do it. But I knew that if she could do it, then I could do it.
That's right.
So I knew if she could not even be a nurse and do it, then I surely could do it. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I love the perseverance in this story, right? And not knowing which way to go, but understanding I've identified somebody who does, and I can connect with that person and get to where I need to be, and continuing to work at it and never stop. You said it took you a year just to write the curriculum alone. It took me like 2. So
Victoria, what you are doing, I have had people come to me and ask for some consulting and things like that, but just on a real minimum basis. So what you are doing, if I would have had someone like you, that would have made my life like so much easier at that time. I didn't have any money, but I would have figured something out like I did. But having someone like you that is offering the services that you offer is huge. And I don't know if people really understand that, because I do, because I understand what I had to do and what it took in my basement every night to try to get it started. Even when people call me now, I think people need to understand what you probably went through, what I probably went through, because they don't understand the value of the information that you have. Like, they could get it started 10 times quicker because they have someone like you to consult with. There's no such thing as we don't have a consultant, only the one who is the state consultant. That's it. So, and sometimes, she's not going to tell you, she's going to give you some paper. She's going to say, go read this and then go fill it out. And
that's what I was going to say. The fact that you had one that was pretty helpful and still continued to talk with you for that long is phenomenal. Yeah. Because so many of them are like, listen, I gave you the application, read it, and then figure it out and get back with me when you're done with it. So this up to her to helping you through that situation.
She just retired. She was the sweetest woman I've ever known. She just retired. So she helped me throughout my whole years of it. Very fair, but very strict. So if she came in and she seen something that was not right, you were going to hear about it. But she said it in a way that it was professional. It wasn't unprofessional. It was not, you didn't feel as if she was treating you differently for any reason. So she was actually a great person. We have a new one now. I haven't met her yet, but I'm sure she'll be nice too. So
got you. Okay. So then you finally get your application written, your curriculum written up. And what she was saying was, guys, now a lot of these books have crosswalks or tell you, okay, hey, if you're supposed to be teaching hand washing is located on this page, and these are the objectives, and you can find them. Like back then, like she was saying, even for me, I didn't even know crosswalks existed when I started my program. So you just flipping through the book time after time.
Find the page, yes. It takes forever. Yes.
So there's a lot of resources now. So anyhow, so then you get your curriculum written.
So I get my curriculum ready, no money, nothing. And I'm teaching a class like I was still at this place that I absolutely hated, but I was there because I felt like that's where I learned. That's where I had to be there. I feel like I was supposed to be there so I could learn what I learned and so I could see. Because if I didn't see what was happening in the discrimination, it probably wouldn't have lit the fire, because I had a whole nother business idea. I was going to open an adult family care home. And so I had a whole nother business idea before I started doing the CNA training. So I got this ready, and the student at the end of the class walked up to me. No one knew that I was doing this at home. No one knew. So this student actually walked up to me and said that I think you are a phenomenal teacher. And I think my boss needs you. So the woman who she referred me to was a woman who owned several, what we call here, the CBRF homes, the caregiver homes. So she had about, I think, 6 of them. And so she needed a nurse because her nurse had quit and she needed like a nurse consultant. So the nurse consultant would come in, would teach, would do medication administration, would also do like some skill care. So all of the people there had like G-tube, Mickey tubes. So if one would fall out, they would call me. I would leave. I was always on call. I would come home and I would, replace the Mickey tube. So that's what she needed. So before I knew what that entailed, the woman said, well, this woman who owns group homes, she needs you. You're such a good teacher. Like, you help us to understand, like you broke it down. So for people who have no medical background, I think you would be good. I met with the woman and I said, I will help you, but there's one thing that I want to do. And if you could help me. She said, what is it? I said, I want to start a CNA training, but I don't have any money and I don't have a place to do it. She said, well, I need CNAs. So you can use a space in my basement and that should be able to help you. And I said, okay, that's fine. So my one mistake there was I didn't ask any details. I wasn't business minded. I just knew what I wanted to do. I didn't ask any details, how that would look, would I pay rent? I just said, okay. And she just said, okay. So I started, getting money here and there. I buy a mannequin. When I can remember at this time, I was in my BSN program. So you know how you get the refund from your financial aid? So I would take that money and I bought 1 mannequin, 1 hospital bed. I think I had 4 tables and 8 chairs. And so I set her basement up and people were telling me the state is never going to approve that. The state is never going to, that's a space in the basement. I said, I think she will because I'm connected with this woman who has these care homes and she hires CNAs. So I think that she will. So the first time the state came out, I got denied. I forgot what it was. She came out and she said, go fix this. I believe it was the location of the sink. It was something that could have been fixed. I forgot what it was.
The location of the hand washing station. Always does it.
So I think it was something like that. So after I fixed it, she didn't even come back out. She told me, send me a picture of it. Sent her a picture of it. She approved me. And so I started in the basement. Now here's where it got a little bit sticky. The woman said, okay, now you have it approved. So you have to pay me half of every student that comes in. And a lot of the students that came in at that time were people who were working for her. So I would charge, I think my price back then was probably low. It was probably like $600. So she would get $300 of every student. Instead of charging me rent, monthly rent, she would get half of every single student. And she would come and look and watch to see how many students were in the classroom. And at that time, because her location was not on the bus line, it's kind of far off, very difficult for people to get to. I didn't have a lot of students. I think my cousin, who is now a nurse practitioner, by the way, was one of my first students in the classroom, and she didn't pay. So I had to come up with a way to give that woman $300 so my cousin could just take the class because I needed her to practice. I needed her to like tell me what I did wrong, what I did right, what I could have did better. So, that was a journey in itself. And I saw it going to the left once she came to me one day and said to me, I think you're spending more time with your business than you are with my business, which was not true. I still would get up in the middle of the night and I still would. So when she said that to me that very night, because I didn't trust her, I felt like she would lock my supplies up and I wouldn't be able to get to them. So that very night, I got a U-Haul, called my husband, got a U-Haul truck. We got everything out of there and I had nowhere. I didn't tell the state yet. Because had I told the state, then I wouldn't be a CNA program anymore because you don't have a location, you don't have a classroom. So I put everything in storage and I still, again, had no money. Someone told me that there was a business plan competition, but I had no business plan because I didn't have any money. And I'm like, geez, how am I gonna get a business plan? My husband doesn't know this story, but he's going to find out now. There was a guy, and I wasn't married at the time. There was a guy who, I think he kind of liked me. but he would say things that didn't seem like he liked me. Like, oh, I don't really like dark-skinned girls. Or, oh, I don't really like girls that are kind of thick like you. Or, oh, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, we were just friends. We were talking. And one day he had been intoxicated. And I had told him about my ideas and things I wanted to do. He called me over and he gave me a check for $2,500. And I said, what do I have to do with this for this check? He said, nothing. When I'm hungry, and I hope I find him. I hope this video reaches him. He said nothing. And I don't even know his real name. His nickname was LA. And he said, when you get money and I'm hungry, just buy me something to eat. That's all I want. That's all I want. I took that $2,500. Someone referred me to a local place down here that helps business owners, YWCA, and there were two African guys. I'll never forget them. They charged me a very cheap price to write the business plan, but I was so picky with them. If I seen a period or a comma that wasn't supposed to be there, I would call. I know they got sick of me. I would say, no, I can't win like this. I need this.
Let me ask you a quick question. What made you fearful to do the business plan on your own?
Because I had no idea what all I knew how to do was be a nurse. I had no idea about the finance. It was really the financials part of it. So I know what the vision was and how I want the business to run and all of that. But into the financial, one of these guys was an accountant. So when you get to the financial part of it, I'm like, I have no idea what to, and so I needed them to teach me how do I present it? You know, if I win this plane, you have to fly to Chicago and present it in front of all of these people that were like lawyers and accountants. So you had to present it. So I needed them to help me to translate that because I had no clue. Gotcha. So we got through the business plan, submitted it, turned it in, and I won one of the second place prizes, which was $15,000. Wow. So with that $15,000, I was able to go and get the supplies I need. I was able to rent a space. In addition to that $15,000, I had then started working with, it was called the Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative. And I was able to get a loan from them as well. So I was able to rent an office space, still not the space I wanted. And the space was there was like a methadone clinic in this space. And it was like not the best. It was in an okay area, but the other businesses that were there were like not the best. But I took my suite and I didn't even like the floors. The carpet was like not what I liked. I had my husband then come in and like put new flooring down in this man's space. The landlord, I'll never forget, came to me and said, "You are not the owner of this space. This is my building." I said, "Well, your building is, I'm teaching women. Women are my customers. They're not going to come anywhere to teach healthcare on a dirty carpet." And so I put this suite up. I put some more lighting in that space. I did all of this with that money. I fixed up his space with my money in order because you're not going to get in. I wouldn't go into a space where the carpet looked dirty and say, "I'm going to teach you infection control." That's that's absolutely not going to work.
And they're not going to approve you if it looks a hot, dirty mess. I never forget. I think my ceiling tiles had dirty spots on them, and they pointed that out. Like, your ceiling tile got dirt spots on it that needs to come down.
Yes, his had the same thing. But you know what's so funny? It depends. It depends on who you are because I became for a short period of time. We have headmaster here, so you know how headmaster, the testers, so they're the state examiners that works with the state. When they first came to Wisconsin, I wanted to see what they were all about. I became a state evaluator, but I couldn't test my own students. I could test other students. So I went to a place that was like in Green Bay because I wanted to see like how testing ran. And the place that was in, it was, I don't know how they got open. Like, like how is this possible? It looked a hot mess, and I don't understand it. But a lot of it, I think it depends on who you are and where you are.
And it's subjective. Like whoever the evaluator is, it's such a subjective process. Yeah. If they don't like something, then
But we had in the state of Wisconsin, we have one. There was one person who was in charge of all of the CNA training programs across the state. So she had to approve this. The same one that approved mine approved theirs. So it was not good. But I always tell everybody, you can't go off with anyone else. I mean, you have to hold it to nursing standards. If you're a nurse, would you want to walk in or be treated in somewhere that's dirty, not clean, dim lights, looking depressed? I mean, that's not what that's not how you want to teach. That's not the impression you want to give your students, and that's not of healthcare,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so through my years, some of the other trials and tribulations, it sounds like when I tell my story, people are like, "Oh my God, that sounds horrible." I even tried a partnership with a friend that didn't work out. My advice on that is to make sure that we went to a lawyer, but I don't think we were as detailed as we should have been. So if you're going to partner with someone, please make sure that you seek legal advice. Make sure you're in agreement with everything. If it's a friend, you even have to go deeper with that legal advice. You have to be very specific. Sometimes I think it's probably easier to work with people you don't know. Sometimes versus the people who were your friends, because I had a failed partnership that just did not work out. It just didn't. And it was someone who I went to nursing school with, and who I consider my friend, someone who had planned my wedding and picked up my children. So you just got to be careful, because we have to think that business is business, a friendship is a friendship.
It's totally different.
Yes, so you have to be mindful of that if you're going into business. One of the things that I could say is that I wish I could have had help with a good partner over the years, because many of the classes I was teaching myself, I had three classes a day when I first started. I would teach a morning class, an afternoon class, a night class, and I would be teaching for 12 hours, and most of it would be myself. So one of the hardest things is finding good instructors. I think at the beginning, some people just don't know how to teach. And they get into the classroom and they figure out they don't like teaching. Another thing is, I don't know if people take it seriously. I think that people understand when they work with patients that that's a serious matter, and that you have to be there for the patients. But I don't think they understand the same thing is with our students is also a serious matter, because they pay money to come. I had one instructor once that left me at a nursing home with 16 students. In the state of Wisconsin, it's 8-1. So you can have one instructor to 8 students. She left me at the nursing home with a group of 16 students because she said she had to go breastfeed, and she didn't come back. So those are the trials and the tribulations. Those are the things that you have to get ready for, things that you have to plan for. I think staffing is definitely one of the major things in it that I would tell people to watch out for. Staffing, partnerships, you
have to have another instructor that has your back.
Yes.
You have to.
Yes. I did have my friend who has moved on now to become a manager in a clinic, but she was the one that I can count on, but she still had to work a regular job because she has children, a husband, a family, a house. So that was the hard part. The people who were dependable were people who also had other responsibilities. So I found that it was difficult to find someone. No one is going to be like you. That's what I had to learn over the years. No one is going to be like you for your own establishment. It's going to, and if you do, it's going to be very rare. So you have to hold on to those people. So you have to value those people. So, those are just some of the things. So some of the things that I found were the hardest, and some of the things that I wish I would have known before would have been probably the accounting part of it. I love to teach, but I do not like the business part of it. I say that all the time. I love to just get in the classroom and teach, but you still have to be up on the office and the management and the bookkeeping and all of those parts of it too. So,
yeah. And I'm so glad you shared that, because that is a huge piece, like you said, the business side of it. When we're thinking about the accounting, when we're thinking about payroll, when we're thinking about marketing, when we're thinking about all these different things, we nurses, we love to educate, we love to teach, we know all of that part, but that's the part that we're lacking in, and we have to recognize that, and then fill ourselves with resources to make sure, or pull people in that we can trust to make sure that they can handle those aspects for us, for sure.
Yes, and when I first opened my practice, my school was outside. So my sister was came in and she was like my office manager. So she took care of that. She came up with my admission process. She was an awesome recruiter. But when my sister got pregnant with twins and she had to go, like I could not find anyone that will work like my sister. It was just difficult, like to find office staff and to find instructors. So those are the two things that you definitely have to have a strong base. You know, you have to have someone who can work your office, the phones, the answering, the helping with recruitment, and you have to have a good instructor. Like you have to have a good instructor.
Let me ask you, some of your best instructors that were the ones that had your back, what type of qualities did you find in them? You know, what type of person were they so that this can help other people scout those type of people out?
So my friend Sharice, I'm going to say of everything, very dependable. At the beginning, I'm going to say she was leery because she wasn't my friend at the beginning. We didn't know each other. We became friends over the time. So when I brought her in the classroom and I let her shadow me, she was like, oh my God. She said, you're just a little bit, and she couldn't really explain it. The word that she was looking for, because I said it for her. Oh, do you think I'm mean? She said, yeah, kind of. I don't know if I could do that. So I'm like, well, what I've learned over the years is that you have to be the same. You have to be consistent with everyone. It has to be the same rules across the board. Mm-hmm. And there are some students who I love to death. And I slightly did a few little things for them that was a little bit different, but at the same time, they have to follow the rules. You have to be there on time. She had a problem with writing the students up or having someone escorted out, that that their time had expired, you know, for whatever reason. So she had a hard time with that. So, but one quality she had was learning. She was willing to learn it. She was willing to, you know, so being dependable, someone who's willing to learn, someone who understands that you will not get teaching overnight. It was just a woman online that I was talking to that she said she had made a post that I just got my CNA program, and then, her instructor, and that she was going to be opening up a program. So I think I had a side conversation and asked her, like, you know, she said, I asked her, did she want to come and work? Because I can show her, you know, if she worked for me, I can show her the skills. She's like, oh no, I'm opening up in 2020. I don't really need any help. That's the part that I think people don't understand. And my friend Sharice can tell you that, like, she learned the program. So if she wanted to go and teach or open one on her own, she could, because she was open to learning. So I'm going to say out of all the instructors, she was like the top one. She was open to learning. She was open to my constructive criticism. So she didn't, when I gave her some correction or, you know, told her there's a certain way I want to do things because of a certain reason, maybe it was a testing issue. You know, another thing with instructors is that people will come in with their experience and say, well, I didn't do it like that. I did it like this. Well, I didn't, but like you going back to what you said, some states are different. It depends on the testers. What do they want to see? It doesn't matter what I did in my practice and how I did it as a or a nurse. I have to do it the way the state wants to see it. And a lot of people were not open to that. They think that I was just trying to be the enforcer, but really, this is how our students are going to pass. So I think someone who is open to learning, someone who does not mind correction, those are the qualities that you're going to look for. Because as nurses, let's face it, we all think we know everything. We do. I think that this part of us, we all think we're smarty pants, right? But we have to be open to learning. We have to be open to learning things that are new. So. Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's see here. You've answered a lot of my questions. I love it. And you guys start asking questions if you want. We've got quite a few people.
I talk so much. I will talk you to death.
Girl, you got some good information. Oh, that's what I want to talk to you about. So tell them about, I know that when we talked, you told me that you were able to get a contract with Job Corps.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So talk to us about what that looks like exactly and how you even landed that.
Okay. So with Milwaukee Job Corps, what happened was that they had started sending students to me. They did not have their own program. So they had started sending students to my actual training center. And remember when I said I had a partner, I had a whole fallout with the partner. And so at this time, I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to take any more Job Corps students because I'm going to shut down. That was what I was saying, like I'm going to close down. But I think the reason why they kept sending us those students was because we knew how to deal with them. I knew how to deal with them. We have to understand that everyone is not in the same place, and we have to meet these students where they are. So you have to think about their background. You have to think about like what schools that they come from, their reading levels. All of these things were different. So I think I spent a little extra time with those students, which is why Job Corps wanted me. So after I broke up with my partnership with my friend, I said I was going to shut down. The state told me how to do it. She said, well, if you're unsure of what you want to do, you can close for 90 days and then you can reopen. So I said, let me shut down for 90 days. I separated from my friend. And at that point I was saying, I'm never, ever going to teach CNA again. I was torn. I was scarred. I was hurt. And so Job Corps kept calling me. They had my cell phone number and they said, we love you. Like, we want you to teach our students. We sent them to other places and the other places are just not working for our students. And I said, well, I'm not open anymore. And they said, well, can you come to us? And I said, let's call the state. Let's figure that out. Call the state consultant. And true enough, she was able to come on site, approve the classroom in a lab. And so now what I mainly do is partner with Milwaukee Job Corps. I also have a contract with Milwaukee Public Schools. I've only done a few classes with them and I haven't been back because the coordinator is no longer with them, but I got that contract pretty much the same way. I was an MPS instructor. The students liked me. So I think the age group that I mainly work with now, for the last 5 years, between 16 to 24, I think I have a niche with those students, with those age groups. I think a lot of them are looking for correction. Some of them will call me mean, but I think they like it and I think they need it. And I think that's why they like me. You know, I think
lets you know that somebody cares.
Yep. And I think that's what it is. So I don't let them get away with everything. There's a time to love on them. There's a time to joke with them. And then there's a time to be serious in class. And they know when I'm playing and when I'm not playing with them. So I have a niche for those groups. And I think that's why I've been kind of attracted to them. But to get these contracts, pretty much the proof is in your work or what you do. That's how you get contracts. Networking, being open to people, talking to people, because I have had people say, oh my God, I don't want to work with those age groups. Oh my God. But you have to think about it. Working with Job Corps has done something different for my company. I don't have rent. I don't have a light bill. I don't have overhead. I don't need office staff. So the money that I make strictly is there. I charge a little less because I do use their facilities. So I charge a little bit less, but I'm still making probably more because I can keep more. I need less staff. I still need help because I'm in school. If I wasn't in school, I wouldn't need as much help. So all of the money would be mine if I didn't need to hire out people. So it is a great way for me, like right now where I am, to have, if I didn't have to go to school, it would be a Monday through Friday job, no weekends, no holidays, and I would keep all the money. You know, so I think and I have guaranteed customers, guaranteed, like there's no doubt that they're going to give me customers. There's no doubt. So I don't have to do marketing. I don't have to do anything. I just show up. It's flexible. So like right now, I've been off work for a few weeks because those students are off. And then when we come back, I determine what dates I want to start back up with the students. So that is the plus. Like I love where I am right now. My mindset is I don't think I can even go back out to the community anymore because I've gotten so used to working with those Job Corps students. So
now I've got some very specific questions for you. Okay. So specific question number one is, do your classes stay full with Job Corps? Are they full each time or are they kind of almost there?
They're full each time. And so for them, I can take up to 15 students. Sometimes I'll do one class. So let's say this, sometimes I'll do one class, which is a 4-week class. But if they have more than that, because sometimes they have more, like the last group I had 30. So when they have 30, they need to teach, I'll teach a morning class and an afternoon class. And so instead of being a 4-week, it extends it to an 8-week class because I'll do 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the night instead of doing a 6-hour class, the whole full class. So it's always full, but it's still not like when I was in the public. When I was in the public, it was cracking because I could do 3 classes in one day. I was doing.
I was gonna say, think about what she's saying, guys. She's saying that she just exclusively does Job Corp. She's not even promoting to the community. So imagine if she was promoting to the community, what the classes would even look like, right?
It was when I was in the community, we were booked. Like we were, especially when we first started, 2007, 8, 2009, we had wait lists. We had waiting lists. And that was when my sister was in the office and she was like the best recruiter ever. So we had wait lists, and especially around tax season. Tax season was like the best, and we had people that were back. And then they had a choice to go to other programs, but we didn't even have to do much marketing back then after people knew who we were, because it was word of mouth. So I have taught whole families. I have taught mothers, aunties, daughters. People will come back to me. Just think, I've been doing it for 13 years. So I've had like generations of families come to me. And it was because of you have to sell yourself. And why do people like you versus why they won't go to our technical college versus why won't they go to the other CNA training up the street? It's because their families are vested in me now. So I still have people emailing me saying, can you please open back up to the public? Can you? And they know I've already told them that, oh no, I'm just working with Job Corp and NPS, but they still want me. They still want me because of their vested, because of the relationship. So I think no matter how many CNA trainings you have, people are going to choose you because of you.
Now I see you guys have questions, and I'm gonna get to your questions, but I want to ask her one more thing, Octavia. What type of connection, do you remember what kind of connection you made to get that Job Corp? Like what transpired prior to getting that Job Corp contract?
So I think they first reached out to us because of word of mouth, because the same thing, word of mouth. I think they reached out to us because of word of mouth. And after we taught their first group of students, I have a niche for working with those students. Some of the things that I tolerate, other instructors have come in and it's like, oh no, I can't do that. But I think that is part of me is like you have to understand. That's when we talked about, when we had our conversation about psychiatric health. Some of this you have to understand where these young adults, these young kids are, where they're coming from. So where these young people are coming from. So part of that it is. Now, some of their behaviors it'll be like, oh, it's a no for me too. But some of it I do have to deal more. I do have to deal with a little bit more behaviors with my Job Corp population. Not from all of them. That's the idea that people think, but it's not from all of them. It's a few students that I have to deal with some extra behavior. At some things that I would never tolerate when I was out in the public, I may tolerate a little bit more when I work with this group. So like I said, with this group, I think I found my niche because I'm able to deal with some of the behaviors that others don't want to deal with necessarily.
Yep. And I love that you brought up niche. You guys, my YouTube channel is going back starting January 6th. So I'm going to be posting new videos every Monday. And my very first video, or is it my second? I think it's my second video, is about niche, finding your niche. Mm-hmm. So you just pointed that out. Your niche is definitely for the young adults and understanding what their needs are and making sure that you apply what you can give to them to help them through this process and into adulthood. I've worked with people whose niches were Hispanic speaking and English, whatever. And when you identify your niche, that's how you get paid. Like for real. Sometimes your niche will find you. And that's exactly what I said in my video. Sometimes your niche will find you. So if you want more ideas on like how to niche or whatever term you want to use for your business, I highly recommend it. And I have a video coming up. I think that one's on the 13th, January 13th, about that topic. But let me read some of these questions. Okay. So Jessica says, how long did it take you to open your location?
I'm going to say from the year in the basement. So it took me a year to just come up with the curriculum. And so let's take that a year. And then from that year, I'm going to say a few more months. Let's add on a year and a half to when I met the woman who allowed me to use her basement and I worked for her. So let's just say a year, about a year and a half to get it all like up and going.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the knowledge that you have and the resources that you have. In all honesty, it took me 2 years. but I've helped people get proven in 6 months. So it just really depends.
Like if someone came to me now, like if I was to consult with someone, because I know this information now, it wouldn't take nearly a year if you have a consultant. So if you have someone who's, but if you just want to do it by yourself, it's probably going to take you long, because there are some things that you definitely don't know. Even after you read your state regulation, you read that, it's still some things that are not in there, some things that you just don't know. You learn it from doing it. You learn it from someone who's done it already.
Mm-hmm. So. Okay. The next question, Sade says, so is that true for every state? The whole 90 days you can reopen and without having to start the whole process all over? Great question, Sade. So the 90 days is not true for every state. It varies. So like here in Georgia, you cannot have any students for a year. But after the 12 months, then, they'll close you down on their own. So it just depends. But you have to have some type of enrollment. And if you're not having enrollment, there's a certain period of time in which if you don't have enrollment, they'll close you down. But it varies. So good question. So
here in Wisconsin, I don't know if they have the enrollment rule, but I know like my 90-day was that I was shutting down. I deactivated for 90 days. If I would have never said anything to her, she would have never known. Right. She would have never known. She would have never came back. I don't think they have because even with Job Corp, there was a period where from this time to this time, I didn't do any work. I didn't have anything. Their management was changing. So here in the state of Wisconsin, I don't think they look at your enrollment as much, but when I wanted to deactivate because I was trying to get out of a bad partnership, so I had to let her know what I was doing. And so she actually gave me instruction on how to do it.
And to be honest, you could have, like you said, not said anything and just said, hey, I have a new location 3 months later. I want to transfer to there, and you could just get transferred. So
Right.
And then
and we're not telling you to do anything wrong, but I'm just saying that they wouldn't know. It's good to report so you won't get in trouble, but they some things they wouldn't know unless you do report.
Right, 100% accurate about that. All right, so Trina says, how did you get your contract for clinicals? Did you get it from a director of a nursing home? Did you have experience? How did you land that contract? And I actually have a video coming up on that one, that subject to Trina.
And that could be a challenge too. So my first clinical site, it was because I had gone to that nursing home with the technical college, and I had gone to that nursing home with the place that I worked for that I said was not very friendly to minorities. So they knew me. And here's another thing. This is how you get people. When I think that it's good to work for someone first. So that's how you make connections. Like that's how they get to know you. So even when I applied to get that clinical site, the state initially told me no. They said no because they already have too many educational programs going there. Guess what? The woman who was the coordinator came in and said, no, we want her. Please let her come. It doesn't matter if we'll take more of her than we'll take of them. So that was because of a personal connection. And what I did when I went in those clinics, when I went to those nursing homes, they wanted us because I didn't have students like stand around and like shadow and do all of that. We got to work. The first day we got there, I did the tour. I didn't have anybody shadow a CNA. I don't do it that way. I know some people do. I don't do any shadowing. I don't hook you up. I just say, we're going to take this one, this one, this one. The students and I look over the care plan and we get to work. They love us. They want you to come back. So that's how we got that. Yeah, that's how we got that clinical site, that very first one. And others after that here in the state of Wisconsin is really difficult. It's really difficult in the state of Wisconsin because we have so many of our nursing homes that are in trouble for IJs and things like that. So it's very difficult. Right now, the one that I was just telling you about, I was with them for 10, 11 years. And they called me one day and said, oh, we can't take any more because we got an IJ. This is the one thing that I don't like about CNA training. Our livelihood is dependent on these nursing homes staying in good eyes with the state. So I had another one that was excellent. This one was a little bit further out in the suburb area. Excellent. They had won awards and everything. Guess what? I went to take a group of students in there, walked in, got turned around. The same thing. They had an IJ. And a lot of the IJs have nothing to do with the nursing assistants. A lot of times it is the nurses. Yeah, it is the nurses for wound care or whatever. It has absolutely nothing to do. And they will still take nursing students here in Wisconsin, but won't take the CNA students when there's an IJ, which I don't understand. Here in Wisconsin, they say that they're going to work, their legislatures are working on trying to get that switch, but it's horrible.
That's the thing. That's just about the same everywhere. And that's why I tell anyone who follows me knows, I tell you, do not submit your application with just one nursing home contract. Do not do it. Please have at least two, because what you just said, your business is depending upon them. And if they end up on the ban, abuse, fraud list, it's a wrap for you. It's a wrap for you. So you got to have more than one clinical contract. So Trina, if you have specific questions on how to actually obtain that, I got a video coming out on my YouTube channel. I think that one is going to be on the 27th. So be on the lookout for that one. Vicky says, great point, having individuals use their tax return for CNA classes. And we talked about this in the community because people were saying, oh, tax season coming up. What kind of sales should I do? I said, none.
Yeah, no. Don't do any sales. Don't do any. Do your sales in the off season. Don't do your sales around tax season, because tax season, they have the money. They're coming. Although I've seen a difference. I don't know. So just think, I've been doing this since 2007. I've seen a difference. Back in 2007, people were bringing that tax money. Then when we got to 2013, people was like, I ain't sending my tax money on that. So I did see a trend down. But still, that is the busy season. Like I would not do any sales, promotionals, anything on that unless you giving away a gate belt. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. No.
Thank you. Sometimes I think I go on deaf ears sometimes. So it's so good to have somebody else back. But I'm telling you, tax time is not the time to be trying to put something on sale. They're going to spend that money. You man, get it.
Yeah, you do sales in your slow season. So that's another thing that I noticed in that with here, that tax season was our season, and then Christmas break was good because we have a lot of universities in our area. So people who had to go to school for physical therapy, physician's assistant, nurses, I would have a big influx around Christmas break. So when other people was closing down on Christmas break, I was staying open because those students needed me. They needed to take that class, and that was the only time they could take that class. And then summer. So those were my good seasons. Tax season, around Christmas, Thanksgiving, because students who were in universities, because like I said, it depends on your area. We have a lot of universities in our area in a small radius. And then summer. Summer was huge for us too.
Yep. Yeah, when the kids are away and parents are trying to get that education, or vice versa, sending the kids off. So, all right. Jessica says she wants to know if we can discuss a little bit about income, if you don't mind.
So I can tell you about mine now. So I can tell you my income is nowhere near what it used to be when I was in the public. But to me, it still kind of levels out because I don't have anywhere near the overhead that I used to have. And if I do a 4-week class, then I'm averaging, because I can only take about 15 students. So I'm averaging about $10,000 a month. Mm-hmm. So when I do the 4-week class, and let's just say I do the 8-week class, you got to think about it, it's the same thing, because the 8-week class is happening simultaneously. So I have a morning, I have afternoon, that's $20,000. Right. So in the way that my contract is with Job Corp, I send in my invoice, like they have to pay me, it's due at the beginning. So I get the whole invoice paid at the beginning of the class. There is no refunds. There is no, this student only went 3 days. Can we get, I think they asked for prorated. No, because we still have to pay the person who's teaching in that class. You enrolled in that class, we have to still pay for that seat. Right. So for me, you got to think about, I'm on the lower end because I'm not open to the public. When I was open to the public, it was way more than that, because we had 3 options. We had 3 classes. So yep. I'm averaging now, because I'm functioning, I'm going to say on a low scale, $10,000 a month. Mm-hmm.
Which is still very good. But to your point, the more class offerings you have, if you had an instructor coming in teaching the night class, well, that's easily $20,000 for that month and so forth. So thank you for being willing to share that. Tiara says, okay, so when you very first got your doors open, how long did it take you to really get like a full class? How long would you say?
So you got to think, when my doors first opened, I was in someone's basement. So I was in someone's basement teaching there. So I would get 5 students. And like I said, when my very first class, I had 2 students. I had 2 people in my and I'll never forget it because one of those 2 was my cousin. So I had 2 students in that class. So at the beginning, when I was in a smaller space, no, I did not fill up. My full back then was 8. All I could take was 8 because that's how small my space was.
Right.
So I'm going to say to get to 8, after about 3 months, I had 8 in the class or 6 in the class.
I think, Tiana, another thing to answer that question is like really your hustle. Like how are your name out there? How are you on the internet? How can they find you on the internet? Are you on Google? Are you have a Google business? Are you like, how are you getting yourself out there?
And you got to think, back then, what the internet is now was not how it was in 2007. So in 2007, we didn't have this, like us sitting here having this interview was not like that in 2007. And if it was, regular people didn't have access to it. We didn't have access to it. So, but when I moved and when I got a bigger space, everybody already knew about me just from those few people who went to me. So, but I had to do footwork. I had to walk around and hand out flyers, pass out flyers. We didn't have the internet and we didn't have, the things that we have now. So now I feel like it'll be a little bit, you can reach more people without doing as much.
Yeah. So true.
I did newspaper ads, I did radio ads, I did all those different things back then, which was a big budget. Marketing was a big budget.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Rakisha says, how much do you usually how much have you paid for your instructors per hour? And then of course she did recognize, she said she's in Texas, so she recognizes it may be a little different, but just to give her an idea, how much have you paid instructors in the past?
When I first started, I think it was probably about 30, and now it's about $40 an hour that I pay my
RNs or LPNs?
RNs. So according to our state law, it says that we can use LPNs, but when you try to get an LPN approved, I should say the old consultant was not really approving them. And when she did, she only approved, like they can teach chapter 1 and chapter 2, and that's it. So it's very difficult to get our LPNs approved to actually teach in the classroom here. They call them program trainers, and the RNs are primary instructors.
Gotcha. Okay. Sarita says, do you own your own company, like an LLC, or are you working underneath Job Corps? I think I know the answer to that, but I'll let you.
Yeah, so I own my own company, Care Partners Healthcare Training. Job Corps contracts with me. So I have a contract with them as an independent contractor to come into their facility and teach because they don't have a program.
Yep. And then, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute too, because I want to talk about that. Last question here says, is it better to start an LLC or a nonprofit when it involves receiving state program funding? And is it chlamydia? Chlamydia, that goes back to your niche.
Yeah.
That at the answer goes back to your niche.
Yeah. Well, nonprofit, I don't have a lot of my nonprofit. Black Nurses Rock in our city. We do a different type of thing. I haven't had experience with a nonprofit that will be providing a service, but I'm sure, like she said, someone has that niche. So.
Yeah, it goes back to your niche. We were, my school was a nonprofit organization, and yes, depending on what type of funding you're going after and what your niche is, my niche was underserved minorities. So it helped me tremendously. And my goal, of course, was to go after different types of funding that was allocated to the state. But if that's not your niche, then no, it's not going to help you. That goes back to identifying your niche. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, what's to come for, your business. What's coming up next for Partners Healthcare Training?
So with me right now, I am looking to sell. I've done all of these years with CNA training. Like you said, we both have, I'm a nurse practitioner now. I did do some practice and again with my niche, with my age group in high school, clinic. And that's what I think I want to go back to. I'm in school right now for my psychiatric certification. And from all of these years of working and teaching with this age group, I want to help them in a different way now. So I'm looking to go into psychiatric practice. So that's what I'm looking for, maybe to start my own practice. And so with that being said, there's no way I can run my CNA program and try to start up a clinic at the same time. It can be done, but I just think I don't have the energy to do it. I'm not as young as I used to be. So I want to focus on one thing. And so I had a few people that reach out to me that have interest in it. But like I said, we're going to go back to what we talked about before. So I don't think people really understand the worth of having a business. Like everything's set and all you have to do is take the business and start making money. So I think that's the part that people don't even really understand about it. So I'm looking to see if I have a few candidates that are interested in buying, but I'm looking for serious candidates. And a lot of it was, I think what people don't understand about business is that, yeah, I can sit down and talk to you about the business. We can discuss it. We can talk about different financing, but it really will come down to if you have the funding or not, or the financials or not to purchase it. And I feel so strongly about it that if people are not able to come to me with the financing, that I will just close it down, because it was a lot of work, and it'll be a sad day for me. I've cried before when I thought I had to close it down. I was on the phone with the state consultant. She and I both were crying on the phone because I said it would be such a waste. I'm going to do
so much. Look at your blood, sweat, and tears.
Miss my kids. And what I think people don't understand is what this business has afforded me. So I have been able to help my children buy homes. I have been able to pay off school loans with not all of them, just my current ones. I still owe some other ones, but I have been able to purchase homes. My husband and I have been able to flip homes. So the business has afforded us to move on and do different things. And I think people don't really understand the value of it, because they were not the ones that sat in the basement for a year. They were not the ones that, so I don't think they understand like what I'm trying to give for a price that I think is really low. But if it comes down to it, I'll just shut it down and go out like a lot of champions do. Just go ahead and sit down in my corner and start something else. So I think that's what I have to do.
I think that I think you're right. We have to stop and think about, okay, how much is this business worth, right? Because when you think about all of the time and energy you've put into it, it's like you said, it's already running literally on autopilot. There's automatic customers coming into it monthly. And for someone to buy that and just basically take that over, of course, they need to understand the ropes and how to run the business and, how things are running, your standard operating procedures and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's already on autopilot. And so what would that look like to purchase something like that? And that's already a pillar in the community too, right? Because it's been there for 13 years.
Yes. And part of the package that I was trying to sell it with is 6 months of consulting. So I'll be right there with whoever is interested and teach them how to do it, show them the contracts, introduce them to the coordinators at the nursing home, introduce them to the Job Corp. Job Corp is like, they need, of course they want me, but if I'm 6 months there with someone teaching them the ropes and how to do it, they will come to like that person, because that would be better than not having an entity there, because then otherwise they would have to send their students out to different places.
Right. And I mean, just the consulting and being there with somebody, that in itself is worth well over $5,000 per month with you being there with them. I mean, that's a good $10,000 per month, just you being there with them for 6 months. So there's $60,000, and that's just in the consulting. But so what are you looking to sell the school for?
So my beginning hopes was anywhere between 80 to 90. That was my hope. And when I told the state consultant, she was like, "Oh God, she felt like that was high." But I'm like, "But I did so much work. Like, they're walking into, they don't have to do any paperwork, and besides sign the paper and say this is being transferred over." But I will negotiate. Now, another thing that the business is coming with is some equipment. So I have some mannequins, I have wheelchairs, I have a hospital bed. So I felt like that was a fair price for that consultant. The contracts that come with it, Milwaukee Job Corp, that's a huge contract that comes with it. So, so anywhere between there, but I can negotiate a little bit, but not too much lower than that.
Girl, that is not expensive at all. I've worked with another lady. Now, granted, it was out in California, but I worked with another lady who we got her school set up and did everything, and she was selling it. Now, she ended up deciding to sell it to a physician, but honey, you better believe she was selling it for over 100,000, and I'm talking about almost near 200s. So it didn't come with nothing.
And I think people do not understand that. Even just the curriculum by itself, just to get that curriculum with the clinical side. And let's take Job Corp out of the picture, which that's a huge part of it. But just to have the people don't know the value of already having a clinical site in place. You cannot be a CNA trainer without a clinical site. And here in Wisconsin, at this point, I don't know if they started back yet. They're not even approving anyone. It's on hold because they're in transition right now. The old consultant is leaving and a new one is coming in. So they're not even approving anyone right now.
And the Rakisha said, honey, they'll make that money back in 10 months. Exactly.
They'll make their money back. They'll make the money right back.
Yep, exactly. So would you consider any financing options, or you just want your bread?
So I would consider, depending on what the financial option is, I would consider it. From a business standpoint, it would be, instead of just getting that money all up front, because at the end of the year, then you're gonna be looking like, oh, you made a lot of money, sis. So it would be probably in my benefit to, take a certain amount down and then finance it over a certain amount of time, So it might be a benefit because you don't want to make it look like you made all of this money all in 1 year, because then you're gonna end up paying for that at the end of the year.
Yeah, okay. So I see some people talking about, well, what about that equipment? And I know for a fact it's gonna have to all come as one package, and then if it doesn't, the
equipment can go, because we got to get this. We have it in one of our homes where we don't have a tenant in anymore, so we got to get that out so we can get this house rented or sold. So yeah, my husband's like, what you gonna do with this equipment? So yeah,
Victoria said you built that business yourself, and that does not include the purchases that you've done throughout the years. Your price is your price, and it is worth to come with all the perks. Yeah, I agree. I think 80 or 90 is low, but I think, again, that goes back to, especially for nurses, if nurses are considering to purchase, I think nurses really need to understand the value, and they're not going to understand the value until they get into business.
Yeah.
You've broken your back, and like you said, you cried, you lost friends, you've gained new ones, you went through all of this.
Girl, some nights when you can't even get out the bed. Some nights I just left the training center, went home, looked like for an hour, and had to turn around and come right back. So it's a lot of work. It's worth it. And like I said, I love it, absolutely love it. But at 13 years, I think it's time for me to do something else. So pass it on to someone. I do have a young lady that I'm working with, and she is very interested and she's learning. So she's one person that's a possible candidate. And then I have another person. It's like 3 possible candidates, but it all will come down to the financing, like I said.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions, guys? I know I've taken so much of you guys' time. We've been on here for a little over an hour now. Octavia, honey, you are a wealth of information. I thank you so much for just being
here. Problem. I love talking about it. I love talking about it. And what you are doing is so awesome. Like, what you are doing is like so great. Like, I wish I would have had a Victoria when I was trying to do this. I wish I would have had someone like you. So I hope people understand the value of you as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah, people rooting for you, girl, and you're selling up your school. Yes. Yeah. So guys, if you have any other questions you can think of later, I am going to repost this probably on my YouTube. And then have it, you guys can share it. Please, this is one you want to share. Like, listen to this information. I need to be sending her some money for letting me interview her. Because this is some good information, but this is definitely
I love talking about it because people, one thing is I had nothing. And I don't want people to be discouraged if you don't have any money, because I'm telling you, I had not a dime, a nickel. All I had was my 2 kids. I had nothing when I had this idea. So, you can do it with nothing. You just got to get creative. And like you said, have a hustle mentality. So I was hustling around. I didn't even know it was a hustle back then, but I got it figured out.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. All 25 of you that are here, I am counting on you to click the share button when this goes out on YouTube, okay? Share this and let people get this information. And hopefully somebody will see this and will be in Milwaukee and will be interested in purchasing your school. I know if I was there, I would definitely be on it too, for sure. Because that's an awesome deal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you everybody who tuned in. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a good evening.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.